and welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S. And today is Sunday, July 28th. I'm pretty sure. And welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello to the new subscribers. Well, you're very welcome here in my little corner of the internet, and welcome back to everybody who's joined me before. I cannot tell you how much it means to me to have you guys in my knitting community. It really makes a big difference to me. I've been fussing with my hair. I was planning on podcasting on my deck like I have in the last few podcasts, because it's nice outside. It's not great. It's going to be kind of a hot and muggy day today, but it's not too bad now. It's only 9:45 in the morning. But when I went out there to prepare my notes a little bit, the cicadas were really, really loud. And I noticed how loud they were last podcast when I was doing my editing. And I thought, maybe no cicadas today. So no beautiful yard today. I even mowed it yesterday. And thank you for some really nice comments about my nice yard. They like people saying they like to see my yard, or if they're in the UK, my garden. In the United States, we wouldn't call that a garden. Garden is something like planted with flowers or vegetables, things like that, rather than lawn. But, and I have very few flowers and no vegetables. We're not gardeners. In fact, I hired some Amish ladies to weed my garden. I did. My actual garden. I don't care about the lawn. And they did a beautiful job, and that was nice, and they could use the money, and I didn't want to do it. It's just not me. I'm having coffee in my Chewy mug from New Zealand. Thank you, Megan. So no cicadas. You will be hearing the dogs, and who knows what Dennis might get up and call for his tea. If he does, I might stop, or I might not. He might have to get his own tea. Dennis is not a morning person. He likes to have a cup of tea in bed. And I like him to have a good day. It really does help his day to have a quiet, easy morning. And apparently he stayed up very late last night. I go to bed before he does. I get up early with the dogs. He gets up a little later. He stays up later, whatever. So anyway, he requested his tea at 10:30, but I don't think I'm going to be done at 10:30. But if he's still sleeping, he won't know. But I do bring him tea. It helps his day, and when he has a better day, I have a better day, and he does all kinds of lovely things for me. So that's one thing I can do for him that I know has an effect on his day. So anyway, Dennis is my husband, for those of you who are new. We've been married 27 years. We celebrated our 27th anniversary this month, and we're both retired, and so we spend a lot of time together. So him having a good day helps my day. There's just no two ways about it. I'm not, like, this tea isn't some selfless thing. This is like, self-care for me too. Okay, so cicadas. They're very loud right now, and so we're inside. You'll be hearing the dogs. I hesitate to show you the dogs in the living room because the living room's a mess. As you can see, Maze is enjoying tearing up a big cardboard box. We have the best toys here. Which means there's a lot of little pieces of cardboard box in my living room, so don't judge. Okay, so what's been going on since I talked to you last? Well, I have gotten reinvigorated on my food thing. I try not to call it a diet because I've been on a diet since I was 10, and I don't want to think about it as a diet. This is my food thing. This is what I'm going to do, what I do for the rest of my life. Dennis and I have been low carb for many years. But I'm not as dedicated as he is, so I am not, I go through long spurts of not being low carb. no enough carb anyway. And but I've been reinvigorated, and so I spent a lot of time this last week watching keto videos. We don't do exactly keto. I mean, it's possible we do, because I don't know exactly the specifics about keto, but it's a low carb, and that's what we do: low carb, high fat, protein. So I've been watching videos, and that's helped me. And there are a lot of new recipes that are actually good. I'm not that interested in, the thing I miss, of course, is bread and toast, besides cookies. But I miss bread. I miss sandwiches, and I miss toast. So we've been doing some experimenting with some of these keto breads, and some of them are actually not bad. They're not exactly like bread, but they're not bad. But most are too far from bread, So I'm not looking for some sort of bad version of bread. I want a nice bread, or I don't want bread. So, but there's this, I know, talking about diets is like the most boring thing. So I'll just say that there's this bread called fathead bread that is, the basis of it is mozzarella cheese. Because mozzarella, when it's hot, is like stringy, and that's what you don't get in low-carb breads, because there's no wheat gluten to hold it all together. So now they're using mozzarella in a lot of things. And I made some rolls, and they were way too dense. They didn't rise at all. Our baking powder was old. But Dennis made pizza last night, and it was very similar. I mean, close enough that you couldn't tell to regular pizza. It was delicious. So that was really fun to know that I can have pizza. All right. Listening to other people talk about their diet is way high up there on the boring thing, since this isn't a keto channel, which I've just discovered and have been watching. So anyway, I won't bore you with my diet anymore, but I'm feeling good and I'm feeling happy, and that really helps me. But speaking of videos, Leslie has a new video. She just put it out yesterday. I'm so excited. Leslie of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. Wonderful woman, lovely, lovely. I got to meet her in person. She's wonderful. And she podcasts once a month, and her podcasts come out on the last Saturday of the month, which was yesterday. So that's my treat for today. I get to watch Leslie. I mowed the lawn yesterday. I did stuff yesterday. The whole day is going to be a treat. But after I'm done with this, I will be watching Leslie while I work on whatever's next. And Leslie and I are doing a year-long craft-along, craft from your stash. It's very easy. All you have to do is use yarn or fiber or materials that you had in your possession at the end of 2018. And you needed to have started it in 2019. Since it's July, easy peasy. I mean, in January, it was like, I've started this December 31st. Yeah. But now it's easy. So if you owned the yarn in 2018, it qualifies. I don't care how big it is, whatever. So on Ravelry, in the Flame and Fiber podcast Ravelry group, which I encourage you to join, we have a FO thread and a chatter thread. And so put your finished objects in the FO thread. I pick prizes at the end of every quarter. Sorry, Beverly, I didn't send your prize yet. I'm going to send it this week. Scout's Honor. And I was a brownie, so that counts, right? So I pick prizes at the end of every quarter. I have a yarn prize from the FO thread and a pattern prize from the chatter thread. So please come and participate and show us your stuff. It's very inspiring. I've gotten lots of ideas, and so do that. And so Leslie's doing it. She and I are doing it together, and she also has an FO thread and a chatter thread. So join her group too, and you can multi-dip. Anything that, you can put this wherever it will go in terms of knit-alongs or whatever. So please, the more participation in knit-alongs, the more fun. So please do that. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. Nothing dramatic. I did go visit my parents this week. My dad called me and said, oh, there's going to be a cocktail party on the patio at the Crossings. And the Crossings is this brand new personal care apartment complex or apartment building that my parents are moving into. So my dad's getting tired of cooking. He has to do the cooking because my mom has trouble making new memories. So she can't really cook because she can't remember if she put in the salt and, you know, that kind of stuff. So he's been doing the cooking, and he's done that periodically over their lifetime anyway. But he's tired of cooking and shopping. And he's going to be 88 next month, and she's going to be 87 in October. So he's tired. So they're moving. They're going to be moving in at the middle of August or the end of August. And I have high hopes that, you know, Mom is, I think, a little stressed about it. It wasn't really her idea, and, you know, but she's getting used to the idea, and she's remembering that they're moving, and, you know, so that's sinking in, so that's good. And so anyway, they were having a kind of open house cocktail party thing for the people who have already signed up. And so I went to see their new apartment and to see the place and meet some of the people. And I ran into 2 women I graduated from high school with. You know, you go home, you see people. So that was fun. And got to see their apartment, which is nice. I think they're going to do very well there. They have 40 residents already booked into 37 rooms. So there are only 3 couples that are booked so far. All the others are singles. I thought that was interesting. So, yeah, well, by the time you need personal care. Now, the only thing they need, I mean, the deal with this is that they have a restaurant, a dining room. It's not cafeteria style, dining room, and all their meals are prepared there. And they have cleaning service and laundry service, so they don't have to do those things. And then if they need additional care, personal care, those are available, and the price goes up, of course. But, you know, so if you need help getting dressed or need help showering or, you know, that kind of thing, they will do that, and so that's available. It's not a nursing facility, so I mean, they'll help you take your medications and things like that, but they don't deal with actual medical stuff, but personal care stuff. So anyway, so I got to see their apartment, and that was fun, and so that was a quick trip. But other than that, things we've just been doing around here. Puppy kindergarten is over. Maisie did pretty well. I'll put some video of the dogs at the end so you can see them. I was outside and, you know, thinking, I can't come because of the cicadas, but then you won't see the dogs. Well, I just showed you them anyway. They're both laying here, you know. They were running around this morning, so they're quiet for the moment. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. I did do some knitting. My sweater is almost done. And I really love it. Can you see? My sweater is almost done, and look how beautiful it is. I will put it on. I put it on this morning in the bathroom without my camera, and just to see how it fit, because I blocked it, and I really love it. I'm really happy with it. I had the hardest time with this sweater, and it has nothing to do with the pattern. This is the Novelli by Caitlin Hunter, and it is wonderful. I really, really like it. It's not finished, as you can see. One of the aspects of this pattern is that the alternate color just peeks out of the sleeve just a little bit, so the sleeves go like that, and you do a 3-needle bind off, and I haven't done that yet. I've just put my sleeves on waist yarn because I needed to block it, and it's hard to tell because I foolishly did not use a very contrasty yarn, but when I picked up the stitches for the sleeves, to do the sleeves, I also put waist yarn in there because the 3-needle bind off is up against the picked up stitches of the sleeve. In the end, the sleeve is like double thickness. And so it's going to go like that. And I thought it would be easier to pick up those stitches if I put them on waste yarn. But I'm not sure. You can see the waste yarn ended up on the outside of both of them. And on the second one, I was very careful to, you know, kind of feel like I was being on the inside. I think that one looks the same too. So between the fact that the yarn is hardly different and yeah, they both came on the outside. So I'm not sure that that's going to help, but I did try. I thought about putting a needle through there and having the second needle already in there, but on a sleeve, it's such a small space that I thought that wasn't going to work. So the things that I did differently are very minor. I did my neck, you know, you knit 3 rows or something. You just make a little rolled collar. I did that in the contrasting color. The contrasting color I used was my lighter color, and the pattern used the darker color. And the other thing I did was when I did my long tail cast on, I used the contrasting color in my long tail cast on so that I have a little bit of the apricot-y color on the peeking out of the sleeves, peeking out of the neck, and as part of my cast on. So these 2 little pops of color are really the only things that I changed purposefully. But I am so happy with how this sweater turned out. But I had a lot of trouble knitting it, and it's all my own fault. First of all, you've heard all the whining about the color work, so I'm not going to whine anymore about the color work. I was so disappointed that I didn't enjoy knitting that color work, because I have this idea that I want to knit some colorwork sweaters, some yoke sweaters. I'm half Norwegian. You know, I have colorwork sweaters in my blood, and I don't know what the heck's wrong with me, but it turned out so gorgeous. I couldn't be happier with the colorwork. When I was done with it, it was a little, you know, not as wide as the rest of the knitting, so I was somewhat concerned. But I was able to block it out quite wide, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to block it. I wanted to see, because when I first put it on, after I finished the main body before I picked up the sleeves, it seemed like it was a little tight. It wasn't tight, like unwearable, but it was tighter than I had pictured it, and way tighter than the pattern. But I didn't want it quite as loose as the pattern, so anyway. Maybe I'm going to leave room here in case I get Dennis to take a picture of me in this, even in its unfinished state, so that you can see what it looks like on. So I'm pretty happy with it, with the fit. And I won't know until I start wearing it how I feel about the length. I did add about 1 inch to it, I think, 1.5 inches maybe. So it's not quite as cropped as other people's, but you know, I don't feel like I'm a cropped kind of person, but it's not as long as I would typically do a sweater. So I will be wearing a tank top or something under it just in case, you know, things show when I lift my arms. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. But oh my gosh, I can't believe what an adventure it was to knit this. So last time in my last podcast, I had just finished knitting the back short rows, and it was ready to go on waste yarn, and it was time for me to knit the front. So I picked up the pattern, and you know, I'm like, okay, so what do I do for the front? And it says knit front as you did the back. I'm like, no, that can't be right, because I had a very, very high back neck. I mean, this was not possible that I was supposed to be knitting the front the way I knit the back, because it was just too high. So I went back and I reread the instructions for the back. Well, it turns out, as I was doing my short rows, you know, there were 4 rows, you know, specified out in the pattern, and, you know, how to do the short rows and how to, you know, back and forth, 4 ones. And then it says repeat rows 3 and 4 8 more times for my size. I repeated rows 1 through 4 8 times. Which, needless to say, made my back really high. And, you know, I was like, ugh. And I wasn't in a good place mentally to try to tear back exactly the right number of rows, you know, and it wasn't that many rows that I was going to have. So I tore it all the way back to the starting of the ribbing. There are, you know, 3 or 4 rows of ribbing before you start your short rows. And I had made a mistake in the ribbing that I thought didn't matter and didn't show, but I thought, well, here's my opportunity. Let me tear it back, you know. So I re-knit the back part. So that, you know, I actually did end up doing like 1 fewer short row in the front. So I do have a front and a back. So this is, I re-knit this whole part on the back. So that's good. So I pick up my stitches to knit the front. I'm knitting the front, you know, like for 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And as I do, I periodically, you know, like hold it up to myself to see, is it really going to be long enough? You know, I'm always working, you know. So I hold it up to myself and I'm like, whoa, ooh, that's not right. What's going on here? And I realized that having just been so focused on the ribbing and the short rows, that I forgot to knit the 6 inches of stockinette that you got to knit before you get to that point. So I had knit 2 inches of short rows, and so I tore that back. And when I had, so I'm still on yarn that was already knitted from the back. And when I tore back the back, I wound it into a ball rather than wound it around my cake of yarn, because I was doing a center pull cake and I had it in a bag, and to wind it around, I thought, oh, that wasn't going to work in the bag and it's going to get all messy or whatever, so I wound it in a ball while still attached. So now it's attached to the cake and it's attached to my knitting, but it's got a little ball in the middle. I do not recommend this. I thought it would be easier. I was fussing with that ball all the time. So don't do that. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Not a good idea. So don't do that. So that was annoying. So I was, you know, dealing with this ball. But, you know, I had to tear it out again. So I put it back on the ball. And so I knit my 6 inches, or I, you know, was working on my 6 inches. And this ball, you know, was twisting a lot, you know, and, you know, anyway, so I'm knitting and I'm twisting a lot. And I ended up with this length yard, 2 yards of yarn that was very super twisted because of the way I was working and untwisting. It was super, super twisted. It had little pigtails like you get when you're spinning. It was very twisted. And I'm like, you know, so I had this fleeting thought, I should just cut that, get rid of that twist and keep going. But, you know, you don't want to cut your yarn. So I just powered through. So I'm knitting along in my 6 inches. And I noticed that like 1.5 inches back, I have this really crazy, ugly row. And I'm like, what the heck? And I realized that was that really twisted, pigtaily part of the yarn that I had that thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. And it looked terrible. And I actually took a picture of it here. So I'll put it here. I took a picture of it before I ended up tearing it out. Now I thought about it. I mean, but I'm doing the front now. Right, right, the part from here to here. This is going to be right in the middle. I thought it would be fine, and maybe it would block out, and maybe, so I put my knitting away. That's the problem when you have another craft that you're thinking about. But I guess, I could have always just picked up another project to knit, but I only had this one going. So I picked up my needlepoint, my cross stitch, and thinking, oh, I don't care about it, fine, but I know when I've thought about it a lot that it does bother me, so I need to take care of it. So once again, I tore out that 1.5 inches, and I cut the yarn. I'm like, getting rid of that twist. I don't want to think about it. And at this point, I'm knitting back and forth, so it's no big deal. I did it at the end of a row, Why I don't listen, I mean, that little thought, it's like the same, just a fleeting thought, like maybe this isn't a good idea to tie my white yarn with colored, thread to hold it together when I wash it. Like in my last podcast, I had that fleeting thought, like maybe I shouldn't do that. I need to listen to these fleeting thoughts because they're good. That's my intuition coming forward with a brilliant idea, usually. Anyway. That was the last big issue I had knitting this. Although, I think however many inches I knit before I started the ribbing was not quite enough. Because my sleeve is quite small. And I have quite big arms. But it's a sweater, so it stretches. So on her pattern, it's kind of a flare, little bit of a flare on the sleeve. You can see the inside to see the other color and that kind of stuff. Mine isn't going to do that. Mine is kind of hugging my arm, but it's not uncomfortable. And I don't think, and it didn't look bad when I tried it on in the bathroom. So I am so tickled with this sweater. I loved how it looked on. And I'm so glad because I was so worried. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going through all this torture, which is all self-inflicted. What if the sweater doesn't fit me? I'm like, oh no, or I hate it. I don't hate it. I love it. It fits me great. So I do have some finishing. One thing that I ended up with, and I don't know, this is at the neck, because I don't know how that happened. But, so I'm going to, that's easy to fix. I have it on the other side too. So and some of it will be solved when I weave in my ends and pull things tight. But, so I have a couple places to fix, but I am so in love with this. So I'm so happy with it. The Novelli by Caitlin Hunter. And I'm quite sure that you would enjoy knitting it if you like color work, because it is really a lovely pattern, and the color work is beautiful. Oh, look, that's the inside. Isn't the inside beautiful too? Oh my gosh, I was so excited. Are there any color? I think there should, there should be like reversible colorwork sweaters, because I'm sorry, that's wonderful. So I need to find myself a reversible colorwork sweater. Won't you just enjoy me talking about that for 2 months, whining and mooning about colorwork? So anyway, like I said last time, it's a little bit like childbirth. Once you're done, you love what you got, but the pain. Oh, but I'm so excited. Okay, that's it for my knitting. That is the only thing I knit. I finished this to this point yesterday morning, and then I blocked it last night. So I have I put it on my guest room bed, and I turn the overhead fan on and fast, so it dries really quick. So that's fun. So that's my knitting. My next thing that I'm going to be working on, but I haven't picked it up. I got to figure out where I am and all that stuff, is my Doverfell, which is a terrible picture. But I don't need a picture because here's one knit. So this is the sweater that I knit for Isabel. It's got this cute hood and a zipper and pockets. It's like a hoodie. It's a hoodie. It is so cute. And I have the adult pattern, and I am tempted to knit one for myself. And when I do, I'm really serious. Oh, I can't buy new yarn, and I don't have a sweater's worth, but I'm thinking about doing it on in Knit Picks Brava. It's a acrylic wool combo that feels really good, but I mean, then you don't have, I wouldn't think twice about just washing it, and you know, it would be, because this would be like my everyday hoodie. Anyway, I'm knitting, so that's what I'm thinking about. Because I think it's a worsted. No. Did I hold that double? Oh, I think I did. I think for Isabel's, I held a fingering weight double. But for Sammy's, I am not. So this is like a double knit or a worsted. The problem with this yarn is that I got it as a Yarn Box. I was a member of Yarn Box for a long time, and they are out of business. And so you can go and buy on their, you know, clearance sale. And I bought this on the clearance sale. It's really nice yarn. There was no label on it. And do you think I can remember? I can't. So anyway, it's beautiful yarn. I have no idea whose it is, but it's really lovely. But it's superwash for sure. And so now I just have to figure out where I am and get started finishing Sammy's, because Isabel loved her sweater when she was here, and Sammy will need one in, I was going to say in September. They're in Tampa area, Florida. They'll need it in November. So I have time, but I do want to work on it. And I love this moss stitch, broken moss stitch. And anyway, so I really enjoyed knitting Isabel's, and at some point you'll see me knitting another one of these, and it'll be a big one, and it's going to take a long time, but that's my plan. So this is the next thing I'm going to work on. I also need to start some socks because I love wearing my own socks, and maybe a shawl. I was thinking I was gifted the canopy shawl a long time ago, and I haven't used that pattern, and I'm interested in some one skein shawls that are just, you know, accessories as opposed to heavy shawls. I've been knitting big shawls for a while, and I love big shawls, and I will continue to do that. Oh, when my daughter was here, she requested a shawl. Did I say that on my last podcast? I don't remember. But so I picked out 3 big shawls that I had, because I have a lot of shawls. And she took home the Snow Melt by Helen Stewart that I had knit in a gradient set of yarns that I dyed myself in my dye class. So that was fun. Her office gets cold, not in the summer. She was preparing for winter. She's in Mississippi. So all my family are, you know, in the South. That's not true. The other thing I have to do is find a nice open cardigan pattern to knit my mother a sweater. Because I've knit my mother 2 sweaters. The first sweater I knit out of a yarn that has some mohair in it, and it's itchy on her neck. So she has to wear a high neck for her to wear that sweater. And the second sweater I knit her was this gorgeous, luscious, not itchy, soft as a cloud yarn that had rabbit in it, which I can't remember what it's called. And it pills like crazy and sheds, drives her crazy. It's like, so she, you know, neither of the sweaters I have knit her have worked out perfect. So I need to find a nice pattern and just buy a lovely, soft, superwash yarn that she can wear next to her neck, that she can wash, that isn't going to pill terribly. Or, you know, I can bring my gleaner. But anyway, so I'm on the hunt for that. I haven't started looking yet because I just finished this sweater, which felt like, I don't think I've spent this much time on a sweater before. So, but I really love it, so that's nice. All right. So, I say so a lot. I have been spinning a little bit. I did bring my Ashford Traditional downstairs finally. That moved upstairs when we got Pearl, because she was a chewer and she was a rascal when she was a little puppy, and that's when I really stopped spinning, because I was spinning in the living room. I couldn't have it in the living room, and I just stopped spinning. So I'm trying to get back into it. I was using Tour de Fleece as a way to get back into some spinning, and I did, but not, you know, so I spun 2 skeins of yarn, which I showed you last week. And then I went up to find my next yarn, and I found a set of 5 colors all in a thing from Nunoko. Now, I have heard on other podcasts, I think it's the Fat Squirrel or the Knit Girls, I'm not sure, that Nunoko is no longer in business. But this color combination was called Succulent. And I bought 2 of these. So it goes from, you know, like this gray to a light greeny color to a darker greeny color to this color, which I haven't applied yet, to this color, which I've done. So since I have 2 bags of this, I'm spinning 1 bag and then the other, and then I'm doing a 2-ply. So this is, can you see that? So this is the progression. So there will be 5 small, and there are 20 grams of fiber in each thing. So this is a 40 gram. And do you think I can remember how many yards it is? I cannot. Did I write it down? I'm like the worst. Well, I'll pay more attention when I applied this. I did this on my electric eel, which I'm still getting used to. I just got it in November, and I have hardly used it. So, and I haven't spun in 2 years, so I'm feeling like I'm not in love with the yarn, although this has not been washed. But this is very lightly spun. I don't know. I need to get on my Ashford, and I need to pay attention, and, you know. So that's my spinning. My other one is in this bag. I came home from the store yesterday or the day before, and Dennis says, "Oh, I rescued your fiber from the yard." Luckily, the dogs had obviously not had it very long. It only has a little extra veg matter in it. So these are the colors up close. So my dogs are rascals. There's no denying it. But they're lovable and sweet. So these are the fiber, the next 3 colors of fiber. So I had a very big order from Nunoko back in the day, a few years back. I don't know how old that stash is, but it's pretty old. I have a whole cupboard full of fiber. I'm not buying fiber. I don't know. I may never buy more fiber because I have so much fiber, and I'm not spinning a lot. Well, even when I start spinning again, which I'm planning to, I won't be spinning enough to go through that. Speaking of fiber, for those of you who are very, very long-term viewers, you might recall that in May of 2017, I went to the Maryland Sheep and Wool show, and I bought my first fleece, and I was so excited. And people said it was a good fleece. I asked for help when I was picking it. I was so excited, and they said to take it, you know, that you can have it washed and made into roving. And there were several mills at the Maryland Sheep and Wool that you could drop your fleece off. So I followed the woman in front of me, and we went, and I went to the Meadow something. I don't even know if I want to tell you where I took it. The people were really lovely. We sat there and picked veg matter out of that fleece for quite a long time and talked, and people came in and they're like, oh, it's her first fleece. Oh, congratulations, you're going to love it. So I took maybe a pound, not even a pound, half a pound of that fleece home with me so that I could clean it myself and, you know, check it out and spin it and get ready to, you know, because it was going to take a couple months for my pencil roving to come. Pencil roving is what it was supposed to come as. This was 2 years ago in May. I have not gotten my pencil roving yet. The woman who runs the mill apparently was ill. I didn't hear from her for, you know, I mean, I think I contacted her in December. I dropped it off in May. It was supposed to take a couple of months. So I, you know, it wasn't until December, and she said, oh, you know, we've got a lot of a backlog, and didn't hear from her. Finally, I heard from her very near May, so it was a year, and she said, you know, a lot of people have a big backlog, and, you know, 2 years is often the case. I can't believe that. I can't believe anybody knowingly drops their fleece off and doesn't expect to see it for 2 years. That makes no sense to me. So anyway, but she's been ill, and she's had this problem and that problem, and I have heard from her periodically. And, you know, then she was going to give me a discount because it had been so long. And the last time I heard from her, which was in April, now she's going to do it for free. I only have to pay for shipping, but she's on medical leave for 8 weeks. So anyway, so that first fleece of mine that I was so excited to do, and I did wash and spin up the first, that piece I took home. And I knit it into a hat with some hand spun that I got from Juanita. Hi, Juanita. I don't have that yet. And they're within driving distance, you know, a 3-hour drive, I think, or so. I mean, I have been tempted several times to just say, you know what, make sure you know where my fleece is because I'm going to come pick it up. But I haven't done that. I did buy another fleece at the next Maryland Sheep and Wool, and they were not there. They did not have a booth. They were not accepting any more fleeces, which made me feel a little better. You know, if she had been there, that would have been it. I would have just been like, I'm coming to pick up my fleece. You know, that's all. If you're taking in more work, and you didn't do mine yet, you know. But she wasn't there. She's been ill. So, but I bought another fleece, Cordale, and I did process some of it when I got home, and I didn't get enough lanolin out of it. I didn't have hot enough water. Anyway, I may be working on that this summer a little bit, but that's the story of my fleece. My first fleece. I was so excited. It's been over 2 years. I still don't have it yet. Believe you me, when I get it, I will let you know. Okay, so the last thing I've been doing is I've been working on my cross stitch. Because now I'm, you know, multi-craftual. So my biggest thing I've been working on is the, and this is the one with the curse words in it. So if you don't want to see curse words, you can fast forward till you see the teacups, because I did work at on the teacups too. This is, behold the field in which I grow my F's. Lay thine eyes upon it, and thou shalt see that it is barren. So I talked a lot about this last time. This is for my son-in-law for Christmas. He picked it. He wanted it. I decided I was going to jazz it up a little bit and have some more colors, not just browns and grays, because let me tell you, the color list was pretty drab. So I decided to jazz it up. So I got some other colors, some golds, some reds, some blues, some greens. I mean, they're not bright, but at least they're not all gray or brown. They were brown, light brown, dull brown, you know, I mean, every kind of brown. Okay, so in the interest of being able to show it and not offend people, I didn't finish all the words. But this is how far I got. Last time I just had done the border. So I got all the words in except finishing the one word and started on the other parts of it. And I am really tickled with it. Now, the thing about cross stitch and me is that I can't count. I was very, very, very careful when I did this border, and someone suggested maybe starting with the border isn't the best idea. And I ended up off by one stitch, which obviously is not going to make a single bit of difference. Well, I can tell you, if you look closely at these words and how they're spaced and everything, now, they're spaced weird in the original thing. They're different sizes. Sometimes they're lowercase, sometimes they're uppercase, which really is good for me because then I can fudge it and nobody will notice. But you can see right here, these two rows ended up somehow very close at the end. I don't think it hurts it, and I don't think Rich is going to care, and I wasn't going to take it out, so it is what it is. But oh my gosh, I had so much, oh, sorry for the wiggle. I had so much fun doing these words. Now, I am not one, you know, I've been talking about sort of my dilemma over cross stitch, and that I don't really picture traditional cross stitches, you know, samplers and things on my walls. I mean, you can see my walls and my masks. Anyway, that's just not me. So I was wondering, what am I going to do with this cross stitch? I mean, I'm really enjoying doing it, but I'll end up with stuff. So I'm going to have a very cross stitchy Christmas, and I'm going to love that because Christmas is, you know, in many ways feels very traditional to me. So having cross stitchy stuff is going to be great. I'm going to make ornaments and that kind of stuff. But I didn't see myself. Now, you know, I would never hang something like this, you know, in my living room. I mean, something that wasn't a curse word. But now I'm wondering what I can do that, because I really enjoyed doing the lettering on this. And, you know, I mean, that's very traditional to do a cross stitch with saying with a little border or whatever, you know. And I've been, you know, buying things now, you know, goodies. I got borders and I got alphabets. You know, like I'm ready to design my own things. I got to come up with some sayings. And this one is in another language. I'm not sure what language it's in. But you know what? Cross stitch doesn't matter. It's in cross stitch language, although. And that's DMC. So DMC must be pretty universal. So anyway, so these are borders, and I mean, look at some of these borders. Birdhouses and high heel shoes and butterflies. I mean, you know. And I bought a book of graph paper. I'm like, you know, this is how I am. I can't even cross stitch. I can't even count. And I'm already designing things. But it feels like designing a cross stitch is way, way, way easier. Way less of a entry, you know, barrier to entry than like knitting. Because it's flat. And it's very visual. So, anyway. So this is my behold. I'm so tickled with it. But I really enjoyed doing those letters. So now I got to think of things that I can write, do letters, you know. I am thinking of my mother, my whole life, my mother has always read out loud. When I was a kid, she read us all of the Little House on the Prairie books, Laura Ingalls Wilder. I didn't realize until I was older how much she edited those as she was reading them. Because, you know, not always the kindest conversations about Native Americans and things like that. But my mother edited, I had no idea. But anyway, my mother has always read out loud, and she's always read out loud to my dad. And, but now that she's having trouble making new memories, he said, well, you know, she has a read out loud book, and then she forgets it's the read out loud book, so she starts reading it. And so, you know, she can't remember, they don't know where they were, Daddy's missing parts and things like that. I said, oh, I should cross-stitch her a little bookmark that says read aloud book so that she remembers, oh, this is the read aloud book. So I could do that. And I, you know, may do like little signs with the girls' names on them for their doors, something like that. They have stuff on their doors. The other thing I worked on, and this is really seriously just kind of for practice, is my teacups. And I haven't done very much, but I'm working on my teacups. This is a kit that I got for like $8 that I'm considering practicing. And I am going to be working, this has a lot of back stitching on it. And I'm going to do the back stitching on this before I do the back stitching on Rich's, because I need practice at that. I've never really done that. And, you know, I don't want Rich's piece to be the first time I'm back stitching, so I'm not doing that. So when I was doing Rich's piece, I did run out of the black, and that was one of the fancy flosses, and I don't have a, you know, place in town. You know, they don't sell them in Joann's and stuff like that. So I had told you about this little shop in Strasbourg, which is about 35, 40 minutes away from me. And I dashed over there to get more of the black because I wanted to finish the wording. And I think luckily for my budget, when I got there, I had to go to the bathroom and they did not have a public restroom. Is this TMI? So I couldn't stay very long. So I grabbed what I needed. But the other things I needed were these little bags, because this is the floss management system I am currently using. She had these little bags. And I'm using it because I had these bags and floss in these bags on a ring in the embroidery that I discovered from 25 years ago. And so, 20 years ago. So I thought I would just keep going with that while it works for me. And I ended up with a lot of floss, as you can see. Because, now why was that? Oh, because I took out my book of 101 Christmas motifs that I'm going to make into ornaments, and picked 3 of them, and then wrote down they're all DMC, wrote down all the DMC colors for those 3. So I'm starting my DMC collection. There were 60 colors in those 3 motifs. I had a few of the colors, not many, and so I just wrote them down, and I was going to go to Goods again because their DMC is like 48 cents. As opposed to 58 cents at Joann's and 75 cents at the shop that I first went to. But it's a little bit out of town, and I didn't, you know, I'm like, forget it, you know. And I need to go. Anyway, I didn't go to Goods. I was headed to Joann's, and I had to go to the supermarket. And the supermarket is actually right next door to AC Moore. AC Moore is also a craft store, which I hadn't been in since my cross-stitching. And so I went in there, and they had a 15% off sale, so I got them for 48 cents each. So it was as good as Goods. So I got all, but interestingly, they didn't have everything. I still had to go to Joann's for like 5 or 6 of the colors. But one thing I discovered was that one of the colors, there was no bin for it either in Joann's or AC Moore. So that must be like a discontinued color. So I don't know how old my book is. I mean, it's used, so it's pretty old, I guess. And so it has some discontinued colors, but, you know, I was able to figure out what color it's likely, you know, and look at the picture and whatever, you know, some version of a green, and which won't make any sense. I got plenty of greens in here. So anyway, this is my, you know, this is my stash. Starting to collect a stash, but it's a big difference when, you know, it's 48 cents. So I will be starting on some Christmas ornaments soon. And I think I'm not sure that I have anything else to talk about. I'm feeling good. The weather's, oh, I am so sorry for the people in Europe who are going through the heat wave. Oh my gosh. They said that Paris had the highest temperature ever recorded in Paris. And, you know, I know that there's the percentage of places air conditioned in Paris is way smaller than in New York. And around me, I know, I'm not sure how we would have survived without air conditioning because we're so acclimatized to air conditioning now. Our houses are no longer designed to maximize cooling in the summertime like they were back before air conditioning was developed. But anyway, my heart goes out to the people who are suffering with the weather. I'm very sorry about that. We had that hot, muggy weather last week. It was beautiful the last couple days here. It's going to be hot and muggy today. And, but I'm going to stay in and knit figure out the sweater where I am in the sweater for Sammy and do some stitching. And that's going to be my day because I mowed yesterday, so I get a day off. I hear some stirring upstairs, so maybe I'll go get Dennis's tea. It'll work out. And I'll say goodbye. I'm so glad that you have found me. Those are new subscribers. Thank you so much. Oh, and I'm actually not very far from 1,000 subscribers, and I'm going to do a giveaway when I get to 1,000 subscribers. And so if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, I cheer every subscriber. Dennis hears about you all. And so thank you for subscribing and liking. It has, people have found me just on suggestions. I mean, which never happened before, so that's fun. And that comes from the likes, I think, and the views. So thank you so much to everyone who has come and found me and subscribed. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all have lots and lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I will see you next time. Bye. She was more than willing to play with Pearl if Pearl wanted to play, but if she's just going to stand there, forget it. Maze at the ball. Where's your ball? Where's your ball? Hey, you munchkin. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah.